You just moved into the neighborhood, brand new homes, clean streets, fresh sod rolled out like carpet, the kind of place where the HOA sends you a letter if your trash can sits out too long. Somewhere along the way, maybe during your final walkthrough or in a conversation with your builder, you were told you're on buried power lines, so you're good. That one line becomes your backup plan. No need to worry about storm winds knocking down poles or branches taking out wires because there are no poles, no visible wires, just clean sky and quiet confidence. It feels safe, you're underground, so why do you need a generator? And for a while, that logic holds up. Maybe during a thunderstorm, maybe even during a first small hurricane. You lose power for a minute, maybe two, nothing serious, but then the big one hits. Winds howling, palm trees are bending sideways, and somewhere 20 miles away, an overhead transmission line arcs, shorts, and fails. You don't see it, you don't hear it, but suddenly your entire neighborhood goes dark along with 40,000 other homes on the same grid. It happened during Hurricane Helene. Entire neighborhoods with buried lines across Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas went dark. Not because of local damage, but because of substations and transmission lines outside of their communities failed. The wiring under their feet was perfectly fine, but the system feeding it knocked out. And for days, there was nothing they could do but wait. And that's the part nobody tells you when they're handing you the keys. It doesn't matter if your neighborhood has buried lines if the rest of the grid doesn't. Electricity is a system, a chain, and your underground wires are just one link in it. That's because your home is just the last stop on a much longer journey, from generation plants to transmission towers to substations to feeders to transformers and finally to you. What you don't see are the dozens of miles of above ground infrastructure between you and the power plant. All it takes is one failure upstream and your quiet neighborhood goes dark just like everyone else. You might be wondering, okay, but don't underground lines fail less often? And they do, and they're protected from wind, which helps, but they're not immune. Floods can damage underground vaults, lightning can still cause voltage faults, even a nearby transformer blowing can ripple through and trip your system offline. Underground lines reduce risk, but they don't remove it. They're better, but they're not bulletproof. And when the outage isn't your neighborhood's fault, you're still at the mercy of everything ahead of you in the electrical food chain. Most folks don't realize that over 90% of the US power grid still relies on above ground distribution. The vulnerable stuff, the old stuff is still out there, exposed to storms, squirrels, and trees that haven't been trimmed in decades. So while your neighborhood might feel secure, it's like having a high-end lock on your front door while the rest of the block is on fire. When we talk to homeowners after a major storm, we hear the same thing again and again. I thought we were safe. We're on buried lines. But outages don't play favorites. It doesn't stop at your mailbox. It moves through towns, counties, entire regions. So when failure hits, the grid drops you all together, clean, quiet, and just as exposed. And even if your lights do come back before others, that initial outage still leaves you vulnerable. You're in the dark, no AC, no fridge, no Wi-Fi, no idea when the power will return. Meanwhile, your neighbor with the generator, they're eating hot food, charging their phones, and sleeping through the storm like it's just another Thursday. That's because a standby generator doesn't wait for utility to fix the problem. It kicks in automatically, restoring power to your home in seconds and keeping your essentials running until the grid comes back online. This isn't about fear. It's about facing the reality of how the grid works. Buried lines are a good idea, but they're not the whole solution. Not in Florida, not in storm country, not where the rest of the chain is still above ground. A lot of builders mean well when they tell buyers, you're on underground power, but what they don't explain is that it's only as strong as the weakest point between you and the substation. And when that weak point fails, your underground lines, they're only as strong as the system around them. When the grid goes down, they go silent too. That's why we install generators in the newest, cleanest, most up-to-code neighborhoods. Not because we're expecting something to go wrong, but because if it does, you won't be caught off guard. So if you've ever felt a little too confident just because you don't see wires overhead, don't wait for a storm to show you what they were still connected to. If you want true peace of mind, don't just trust the infrastructure, reinforce it. And remember, stay sharp, stay hands-on, and we'll keep you powered no matter what. I'll see you in the next one.